Good afternoon, all. Welcome to THAG Talks Series 3, our first for 2025. This afternoon, we will be discussing organic waste management for the hospitality industry. And we are privileged to have presenting two persons who, between them, have got at least 30 years of experience working in the field of climate mitigation, waste management, environmental management, health and safety, and quite an extensive list. They have got extensive experience in those fields and are well suited, well positioned to engage us on the talk of organic waste management for our sector. Together, they are part of Recycle Organics, which is a project with the overarching aim of accelerating methane mitigation in small island developing states, both in the Caribbean and the Pacific region. I'll ask both Rodesha and Diana, I'll bid both of them welcome, and we'll ask them to please begin their presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I am Rodesha. And today, as stated, we will be discussing. And when I say discussing, I mean we'll be discussing. So I need your feedback. You can stop me whenever you'd like for me to explain or ask any questions that you may like. So just so that we have a nice little chat about organic waste and composting and how it impacts the hospitality industry. So we will be going through organic waste, just the importance of it, and for the sector, the hospitality sector. I will be sharing some examples with you and some lessons I've learned and we've developed with some of the hotels that have some rewarding opportunities or rewarding experiences with composting. And finally, we will tell you about the Recycle Organics program and the hospitality sector network. And if you have any final questions, we can have that at the end. So I would like to start off by letting you know that let's talk. We want to reduce methane. Essentially, organic waste is at least 30% of the waste that is sent to the landfill, and we want to reduce that. Fortunately for Guyana, you have a lot more land mass, but you want to preserve that forestry that you have. Even us as humans, we take a little bit of supplement now and then, but what we want to give the soil is this organic supplement, which is the compost that we will get from our organic waste. It actually creates jobs. So if you have or if you want to take it to the entrepreneurial side of organic waste, if you start a composting facility, you can create jobs and improve working conditions. We can also get some sort of renewable energy from compost through the biogas and through biogas. And we actually reduce our food loss and waste by composting. If you don't have it, you become more mindful when you're actually thinking about compost. You'll peel your food differently because you will recognize that if you're going to peel a potato, you wouldn't necessarily use a knife, but you'll use a peeler that takes off less skin. So you'll be more mindful when you're doing this, especially in the hospitality industry. You want to reduce food costs by reducing waste. And one of the other benefits that we have is that it reduces the quantity of waste that is sent to the landfill. The hauling of the waste that you send to the landfill. I'm not sure exactly how that happens in Guyana, but please let me know. If you pay a tipping fee at the if you pay a tipping fee at the landfill, or if you also pay it to be hauled at the landfill. Now, if you're reducing your waste by 30%, that would mean you will go to the landfill less. And that is something that for us to all think about. I will go into other benefits specifically for the hospitality industry. So cost savings through reduction and resource recovery. Fertilizer is something that you will spend money on, especially if you are a garden resort. That is something that you will spend money on. I can quote, persons spend up to 22,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars just on fertilizer per year. You will spend money on the collection of your waste. For households, you may get your garbage picked up for free, but it more than likely for your garbage in your hospitality sector to be hauled, you will have to pay for that. Again, the number of trips that you have can be reduced if you separate your organic waste. Within your hotel, sustainability certification is something that you want to look at. In this industry, guests are more inclined to choose a resort that has a strong sustainability certification and a strong organic waste reduction plan and a strong environmental sustainability plan over those that does not have any. One thing that I've learned in this whilst working in the industry and speaking to lots of is tourists want guilt-free travel. I was reading something the other day where it says that Guyana basically, because of its large forestry, recycles some of the emissions that happen. But I want you to think beyond that and recognize that Guyana is fresh, it's new, and if you start to make that benchmark of creating that sustainability within your resort, then you will have everything that you need, and you can do this through composting. Composting will force you to divert other waste. And I will tell you how that happens throughout this presentation. Within your hospitality, you want to think about your brand image. You want to think about what you represent and what is synonymous when they speak your brand name. How environmentally friendly you are, and how can you get your guests to be satisfied with your practices? How are you going to get those guests to be involved in sustainability and involved in composting? Because again, guests want guilt-free travel. And finally, it supports your sustainability goals on a national level. We want to ensure that everyone is working assiduously to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Everyone is working assiduously to work on the sustainable development goals. So this is your pathway to do so. Not only that, it assists you in your corporate social responsibility. Once you start this, it encourages you to speak to your community around you. It encourages you to speak to your farmers, because once you're in this, you will have to now speak, will now have to decide which entities you're going to work with within your community. So it forces you to speak to schools, because if you're doing such a good job, Guyana has lots of universities. University students may very well want to visit your facility to see what you're doing. And then you can publish this and it becomes marketing material for you. So those are some of the wonderful benefits that I have seen happen because of environmental sustainability and composting. Any questions so far before I give the bad news? So it's not all wonderful. Everything has its challenges. But these challenges, once you're equipped, are easily overcome. So there is a reluctance to start. And I know that there are persons such as Dee, who is very excited about learning more about composting and how to implement it within your different facilities. But not everyone is so gung-ho about sustainability or organic waste because it's not as sexy as everything else. It's dirty, and persons may not want to separate because they find it as it's an additional job. And but there are ways to overcome it, which is, we will go through that. There's a lack of understanding of the process in terms of the waste site. I will go through a simple process that you can use, and lack of understanding of the byproducts that can be used. So there are different byproducts that you can get from compost, such as compost, digestate, and biogas. So one must educate themselves in order to have a proper understanding of these. Compost and digestate you can use as fertilizer, and biogas is another way you can. Thank you so much. You can use as energy. So after you have done that, lack of guidelines, we want you to develop something to monitor your targets. I will walk you through that, how you can determine what your KPIs are, and how you can determine a successful program. So here I'm going to go through the steps of how to compost. So first you're going to conduct a waste audit. What is a waste audit? It's assessing the amount of waste you have and the different types of waste you have. One thing you will find is once you remove the organic waste from your entire waste, everything becomes cleaner. You have plastics, you have plastics, you have glass, you have trimming. So you then can say, okay, and I waste. Develop that plan that you have. Figure out where on your property or outside of your property, if you're going to do this as a community, if you're going to do it within your own organization, if a few hotels are going to come together, select that site. Once you select that site, you will decide what type of composting method will you be using? Because there are different types of composting methods. For anybody who has not handled composting before, I've always recommend the easiest one. Only use organic waste from fruits and vegetables, eggshells. It's very simple. It doesn't require a lot of work. That's all you need. Then once you have graduated from that stage, then you can go into vermicompost and so on. And design what your compost will look like. This right here is a simple design that we have. Use concrete, or you can use bins, whatever you have within your atmosphere you can use. It's very simple, a very simple design. One thing I will say, if you're going to start with any of these designs, do it in 3 stages. So you have the very raw material, then you'll move it over to the second section. Once that starts to break down, then you move that second one over to the third until you get your final compost. The others. Compost is not something that everyone budgets for. Sustainability, unfortunately, is not a topic that people budget for. So I'm hoping that persons online or upper management or or persons who can make decisions in terms of money. You want to secure the buy-in from the hotel management and all the relevant stakeholders. These relevant stakeholders, it's not only upper management, general managers or hotel managers, but these are your regular managers, these are your team members, because the team members particularly, they're the ones who will be doing this. So you have to secure their buy-in. It will cost you something in order to make this composting area. So you're going to prepare a budget for infrastructure. So whether you want to go with a very simple idea of just bins that you have within your facility already, or you're going to go with pallets after you have received goods that come in on those pallets, or if you're going to build something that's a little bit more extravagant with concrete and probably some galvanized covering, whatever it is, you have to figure out what your budget will be. And then you'll buy the shovels, thermometers, and if you have to secure training from outside participants, outside presenters for your participant, that may cost you as well. So we want to always bear that in mind when we're going to start this process. Capacity building. This is the foundation of and the success of your program. The team members are the persons who will do this. You will have the bright idea. You will have everything that you need. But if your team members do not know what they're doing, you will not have a successful program. One of the things I would recommend for you is to empower them. Create a group. Create a sustainability group. Empower them to let them know they're in charge of that particular area. Team members like to be empowered and they like to feel in charge, and let them know you have to train on waste segregation, what is organic and what is inorganic, what you're not going to compost, which are cooked foods or meats or so on. You wouldn't start with those. And the composting basics include, for example, how do you layer? So you want to put browns and then green and brown and aerate. If something is wrong with your compost in terms of moisture control, how would they know? So you will have to ensure that they know how to determine whether they need more water or they need more browns in order to, because there's too much moisture within the composting area. Not very hard because it's literally fist method. If they hold it and water falls out, it's too wet. So they add dry ingredients. And you have to let them know how they're going to be using it. So whether it's landscaping or gardening, you will have to figure out how you're going to do this. Or if a bright idea is a farm to table concept, you can use. So how are you going to use your compost in the end? Develop clear standards. So you want everything to be quite organized. So which kitchens are you taking it from? Assign roles to persons so they hold themselves accountable, and you too can hold them accountable for that particular process. Then you will walk them to set that infrastructure up and install the bins. Signage is very important, and you can create like cheat sheets for your team so they will know how to aerate, what is that fist method that I mentioned, how to do that. So they have this information readily available for when the stalls are installed. So after you have purchased, you will need to purchase thermometers, gloves, pitchforks, and a moisture meter. Moisture meter, if you have that fifth method, you can hold off on that, but everything else will assist you and aid you in creating that organic waste compost system. Everything needs to be, for this to be successful within your resorts, make it a big deal. Once you have installed your systems, once you have installed your bins, once you have purchased anything, everything, make a big deal out of it. Launch this project with a bang, so there's essential buy-in from your organization and from your team members, from the management level. Everyone needs to know what is happening, because what you will need persons to start thinking that I won't throw my apple in the bin because it can be composted. Let me put it into this particular bin. You're creating a behavioral change, and it will take time. You have to ensure that you are also invested in it by regularly monitoring and keeping records and having conversations with your team. Having conversations. And once you have decided that you have perfected that small area, you can scale up. Expand this pilot project, integrate composting into your sustainability messaging, and share your updates with your guests. At one property that I previously worked, the guest would actually go to the composting site, and there's a garden. So after they see where the fertilizer comes from, they would then go to the garden and pick like mint or rosemary and smell them, or any local item within that resort, within the country. The guests can be a part of that experience. And trust, where they're coming from, they may not have that opportunity. So you have to create that opportunity within your resort with your sustainability policy. Evaluate and improve what has been done. Once you have done that, adjust all processes just to improve your efficiency and address the challenges. Essentially, you want to not use fertilizer, and you want to monitor all that you have done. You want to ensure that you are one of those successful examples, and the other person can see what you're doing, learn from what you're doing, and do that within their resort. Any questions so far? Thumbs up is good. If you're all good, I'll take a thumbs up. I'm not seeing the thumbs, but I'm hoping they're going up. All right, let's go into some examples, and I'll hand over to Deanna.
Thank you, Rodesha. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Now we'll share a little bit of how some facilities in the hospitality sector through the Caribbean region have started doing these types of pilots that Rodesha was mentioning on composting, and even on anaerobic digestion, how to use organic waste within their facilities instead of sending that to final disposal, to a landfill, to a dump site, but treating it inside their facilities. So we'll start with this example is from Belize. It's the Blancanu Lodge, and they have a full system of farm to table, which is, of course, as Rodesha was mentioning, something that the guests are a part of that experience. So what they have in Blancanu is they have compost piles where they treat their food waste from the restaurants at the facility. They have 3 restaurants, and what they do is the process, how it works is they have those that waste. They set them up in 5 composting beds is what they have, and the process to transform that waste into compost lasts 7 weeks. Each bed produces around 100 to 200 pounds of compost. And they also have another way of doing it, which is vermicomposting. Vermicomposting is another technology kind of doing compost, and it uses worms, California worms. So they have worms inside the mixture, and that one treats at this facility 800 to 900 pounds every 4 to 5 weeks. So what they do, in addition to adding that organic waste from restaurants that they disposed of previously, like fruits, vegetables, those kinds of things, They also add horse manure and chicken manure to the compost piles because they also have horses for the guests, so they have that available to them as well. They also add all pruning waste and grass clippings to those composting piles as well from their gardens, which, as you see here, they have a lot of area. This is a huge hotel, very luxurious as well. And they chip all of that garden waste, and that is added to the compost. And then they use that compost in this, as you see in the picture, they have their own crops where they produce vegetables and fruits for the resort hotels, for the resort restaurants. And that's the food that is provided to the guests in the facility. They actually had a problem initially with the program because the local soil quality is very, very acidic. So it's very inadequate to grow crops in that kind of soil. But by producing this compost and adding it to the soil, that really helped the production of their crops as they started the program. So their gardening process and production of the vegetable and fruits that's used in the restaurants is completely and strictly chemical free. And they also have supported, as Rodesha was saying, the surrounding communities. They work with farmers to train them on the process that they are doing at their facility. And they have also exchanged their experiences with other facilities in other countries, such as Costa Rica. They have learned a lot through this network that they have of hotels which they learned from. And Costa Rica is one of the countries that they have had a lot of meetings with and that they have learned a lot from them. So yeah, that's the farm to table example from Belize. Next slide, please. This is an example from Grenada. This is the True Blue Bay Boutique Resort. They have both a composting that you can see on the right-hand side, the right-hand side picture. That's the compost piles. They have a set of 3 or 4, as Rodesha was mentioning before. And they also have an anaerobic digester that you can see in the 2 first pictures on the left. What they do here at this resort is they add all the kitchen food waste and again the garden waste, so the glass clippings, all the waste from their gardens, into both the composting piles and the anaerobic digester. They feed the digester with that, and the compost that they're producing, they're using it to maintain their fruit trees, which the fruit is then used to produce on-site ice cream, like fresh ice cream for the guests. So again, this is a place that they can visit. The guests can go and see the anaerobic digester. They even have a little sign that explains all the process. The anaerobic digestion process, what you do is it's a concealed equipment, as you can see here, and it starts to fill out with gas, which is produced when the composition process starts inside the vessel. And this gas can be used, is the thing that can be used to produce, for example, energy, or in the case of the True Blue Bay, they use it as cooking gas in the bakery. So they have it connected. Maybe you can see maybe on the picture on the middle, they have a connection to the pipe, gas pipes that are, and the building right there is the kitchen and the bakery. So they are using that gas that they're producing themselves with the waste for the bakery. For cooking in the bakery. They are also trying and collaborating with universities on research on how to treat sargassum, which is a big problem in many Caribbean countries. That's arriving to the beach and to the coastline in great quantity. So they're also supporting research on how to treat that sargassum, because that's a big problem, on what to do with that. And they're trying to input it into the anaerobic digester as a solution. This is studies that are going on with universities in Europe and with external consultants. And this is part of also their sustainability efforts that they share with their guests and with the international community as well. Perfect. We can go to the next slide and give the floor to Rodesha. You're muted.
Thank you so much, Diana. This is Sikai Resort. farm to table. They have a farm to table concept. So they have their farm where they plant all their fruits and vegetables, watermelons, peppers, and they use the compost that they have created into their own that farm. Again, that is a selling point for your resort. People want guilt-free travel, and Tikai has really maximized on that. They went from purchasing 80 bags of fertilizer annually to only 2 bags just by turning their waste into compost, their organic waste into compost. This is a pretty simple setup but yet elaborate. So you have seen many different ways you can set up your composting area within your resort. And then this is Sandals Regency Le Toc here in St. Lucia as well. Another way you can set up your composting site. So here they have trained over 350 persons to include farmers and students. I believe this is a farmers group. It's called Helen's Daughters that they're hosting here. And the CCAP, the CCAP team. Oops. 1 second. Here. So I'm back. So yes, so this is Sandals Regency Le Toc, and they have another type of composting area where they use concrete, and they too have a a herb garden, which they use their compost in. They have yielded for over 6 months, 3,600 kilograms of compost over 9 months.
Excuse me,
Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. We're seeing the slide with Environment and Climate Change Canada.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we've got the samples.
You're seeing the sink.
Right. So
Are you
now I think we're on the same page as you now.
Okay, great. So food waste. So from Sandals Regency Le Toc, they have this concrete wall composting area. So you have seen many different types of composting area that you can use within your resort. And you are seeing the benefits here. They use it as a training ground for over 350 persons have been trained, and they have yielded almost 3,600 kilograms of compost, which diverted 9 tons of organic waste within 9 months. I can let you know that you will remove a lot from your kitchens or your restaurants, and then it breaks down. You won't get the same amount because it breaks down, and you'll see the amount of waste that you would have diverted from the landfill. So we have some lessons that we have learned throughout the program. Forgive me again, please. I don't know what's happening today. Please tell me what you're seeing. Lessons learned?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Say they must feel, your team members must feel invested in the process. Everyone who is a part of the process needs to feel responsible, invested, and you have to create a recognition program for them. In the day and age that we are right now, instant gratification is what everyone wants. So you have to create some sort of program for that. One of the things, if you don't sort well, you will have pests. You will have rats, you will have roaches, but if you sort properly, you will not even have smell. There'll be no stench from whatever it is that you are doing. And a lot of persons might think compost smells. However, if you separate and you segregate what needs to be segregated and use the ideal items, then you will not have pests, because pest delays the composting process. It does take time from organic waste to compost, so be patient. Be patient in what you do. The smaller the items are cut, the faster it breaks down. Start with smaller organic waste bins and then scale up, because then you will start to tweak, go through that teething process and tweak the composting areas in order for you to see what you can manage. Odors and pests are common again if you do not manage your waste properly. And at any moment in time, you can always call on someone to assist you with the composting before it costs. So get a local expert, call on your knowledge sharing groups, find out who can assist you, who can troubleshoot for you if you're unable to do so. And here ends my side of the presentation. I will now hand over to Deanna, who will go through the Recycle Organics program and what it is and how it has benefited St. Lucia and possibly other countries.
Thank you, Rodesha. Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit how where these resources are coming from to support all the activities and what exactly we're doing both in St. Lucia and in Guyana. And the next slide, please. So this is part of the Recycle Organics program. This is a project that's supported by the Government of Canada through Environment and Climate Change Canada, which is the equivalent of the Ministry of Environment. We're supporting 6 countries, smaller than developing states in the Caribbean and the Pacific, with a total contribution of 7.5 million Canadian dollars. And as Rodesha mentioned at the beginning, the main objectives of this support is to contribute to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and increasing climate resilience. So working on mitigation activities for climate change, strengthening, of course, national and local capacity for sustainable strategies in the waste sector, and then also supporting the efforts in developing activities that contribute to the national determined contributions, which is the documents that countries agree upon under the Paris Agreement, and all the environment and climate change actions through international agreement under the Paris Agreement and UNFCCC. Next slide, please. So these are the beneficiary countries that the Recycle Organics program is currently working with. Under the support from Canada, we are working with Belize, Grenada, St. Lucia, and Guyana, and Fiji and Samoa in the Pacific. As you can see here, our focus has been mainly on the Latin American and the Caribbean region, but we are expanding slowly also to work on Africa, Asia, and Oceania as well. Next slide, please. And then we are focusing on methane emissions, which are the emissions that are produced when you don't treat organics through composting or through anaerobic digestion, but when you send them to a landfill. So when they get to a landfill, they'll produce these emissions, and these emissions are if you reduce them, it's the fastest way to address climate change in the short term, because this methane is more than 80 times more potent than CO2 as a climate forcer. and it stays much shorter time in the atmosphere. So if we are able to reduce those emissions, we will have a faster impact and a much more big or increased impact than just working with CO2. So that's why we're focusing on methane, and the waste sector is a big contributor to methane emissions. Next slide. And just to share as well, just 20% of methane emissions globally come from the waste sector. So that's a big part of it, and that's why also the program is focused on the waste sector specifically and organic waste. Next slide. Perfect. So this is what we've done for each country. Each country has, we've done meetings with stakeholders to prioritize what we're going to do in each country. And this is the activities under the Guyana Action Plan for the Recycled Organics Program. We have provided support for the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development in developing and giving recommendations for the draft of the Solid Waste Management Draft Bill. We are also working in an educational program for the for biodigestion. We provided a biodigester for University of Guyana. We're also working on pilot and home community composting programs throughout the country, mostly in Region 6. And we are also identifying a pipeline of projects, developing pre-feasibility studies within the country as well for a couple of projects identified, as well as identifying financial sources to be able to develop those in the future. So that's the Guyana Action Plan. And then we talked, and Rodesha talked a lot about the experience in St. Lucia as well. And in St. Lucia, we do have similar activities, although each country prioritize different things. But we do have as well support for policy in terms of an organic waste management regulation that we're working with the Solid Waste Management Authority. And well, some other things as communication campaign recommendations, again, policy, pilot home and community composting programs, the pipeline of projects, and identification of financial sources. But the special thing at St. Lucia is that we are working on an educational program focused on the hospitality sector and on organic waste management. So this is what we were going to share today as well, and how we're working with the hospitality sector in St. Lucia to support them in waste management. Next slide, please. So the educational program that we have in St. Lucia, and apologies, my daughter is here with me right now, is the support that we're providing for the hospitality sector is we'll have initial, well, we already have initial meetings with the association, the equivalent of the association here in Guyana, but for St. Lucia, which is called the St. Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association. And we're working with them directly to design this program where we'll support a group of hotels to develop composting facilities within their hotels. And we're developing also a network where we have online webinars and training sessions for them, for other hotels as well, to start learning how to do this process step by step. We also provide diverse capacity building opportunities, such as going into site visits to see for themselves best practices, to exchange with other hotels that are developing plans currently, and we'll support also these hotels that we're working directly. That's a smaller group of hotels to develop plans within their facilities, as well as implementing them and composting within their grounds. So that's the focus of the program in St. Lucia for the educational program with the hospitality sector. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of what we're doing is more specifically. We'll do the support for the hotels that we're doing is we'll try to analyze the data, as Rodesha said, do like a small audit to understand what their waste production looks like, the costs, and start building a plan to engage both the sector managers and the staff to participate in this step-by-step process of how to treat organic waste, and to develop better management strategies. And then we have the policy network, or the network for hospitality sector. That's these webinars that we're going to be doing, and these opportunities to do site visits and to exchange with other hotels, not only in St. Lucia, but in the Caribbean region in general. Perfect. Next slide, please. And then we also, just for sharing with you, we wanted to share with you the next sessions. We're going to have sessions all throughout this year for this hospitality network for St. Lucia. But of course, we wanted to extend that invitation to Guyana and to all of you through the association as well. The next session will be on Thursday, the 24th of April. We do them always at 10 a.m. for 1.5 hours. And the topic of that next session is going to be waste segregation techniques. So how do you develop this waste separation within your hotel, showing best practices, showing how to do it. And you are welcome to come to ask questions to the experts that are going to be throughout these webinars, sharing their knowledge with us. And we'll have different topics throughout the year. And we'll start also sharing the experience of the hotels that we're supporting in St. Lucia to develop those plans so that they tell the other members of the network how it has worked, what has been challenging, what has not, and also have an exchange with the hotels, not only in St. Lucia, but if the Guyana representatives and participants here also want to join, of course, that would be an opportunity for you to exchange and start exchanging with the hospitality sector of St. Lucia. So that's the last thing I think we wanted to share today. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying and participating, and let us know if you have any questions right now.
Thank you, Diana. So now I'm open to all questions that you may have, that you have written down. I'm sure you have. So please feel free to shoot them at me, and I'll answer as many as I possibly can. Please go ahead. Don't be shy. Don't be shy at all. Please go ahead.
Please feel free to engage the presenters at this point. Any questions that you may have, I'm pretty sure they are well positioned to answer them.
Well, I have a question for the participants. How do you see this happening within your establishment? I see John has unmuted his mic. So John, Mr. Campbell, please go ahead.
Thank you, Rodesha. I got your name correct?
You did.
Great. I'm so happy I joined this group. You and your assistant has or your partner has shared some very relevant information. I am not in the hospitality business.
Mm-hmm.
I am a farmer, and
wonderful.
And I have invested tremendously. Well, I wanted to invest tremendously in the methane reduction. So I have invested in a solid waste separator. It should be arriving on the 14th of this month, which is next week in this country. It's coming from China. But the whole objective, when I saw it recycling, it's part of my mandate on my farm, as you call it, the sustainability policy. And the main objective of my farm is to produce organic fertilizer. And when I saw the hospitality, it is that I could supply them with my organic crop, maybe in the next 6 months. So I'm so glad that this is aired, and I joined. But what struck me is that I learned that the environmental and climate change of Canada is supporting Guyana. I have been contacting GEA, Guyana Energy Authority, and the Ministry of Agriculture on information, and they haven't shared this information with me. I didn't talk to THAG, so I'm not but this brings some relevant information. I must say thanks.
You're very welcome. Thank you for attending. And I'm very excited.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that. So our focal point within Guyana is the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And under the pilot for home composting, the program did actually 2 weeks ago deliver composting bins for homes, and in areas of I understand in Region 6 that are that have agricultural connection as well, because the idea was also to link the program with the SHED program from the presidency. We delivered bins in Region 6 a couple of weeks ago, as I was saying, and we were working in coordination as well with NARE and the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, as I mentioned. So maybe that's the two routes that you might connect with if you want more information on that, or to learn more about the program. And as well, we will be open if you have any other questions on how to learn more about this that we have.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
If I may interrupt here briefly, maybe if you checked with NARI, the National Agriculture Research and Education Institute, they may have some information that would assist you. They're located at
the partner that I was mentioning. We're working with NARE for the delivery of the bins in Region 6.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Well, I'm in the farming belt of Region 3, and Region 3 has a big farming belt. So and that's the reason why I invested into that, because I want to supply them with the organic fertilizer. Actually, it's a biodigester I'm building. So the process I'll be utilizing is anaerobic, the procedure. Yeah, that is what I'm investing. I did a lot of research on online, and most of the information I'm getting is from Kenya, Africa. They are very versed in those things. I found a manual, SANDIC. It's a book written by an organization called SANDIC. Very informative. So what you discuss, all of that is in the book I read. So thank you again. I really appreciate this session. And if there's any other information, I will probably get contact with you guys somehow or the other. And also, as Sir said, get NARI. But Ministry of Agriculture is NARI, so I just can't understand how they didn't share that with me. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe to add onto that, since you mentioned the anaerobic digester, another activity that we're developing in Guyana is with the University of Guyana. We have provided them with a biodigester as well. So that's the Faculty of Environmental Sciences that we're working with. So the idea for them is also to start building the capacity on how to use this technology, feed it with manure and with other feedstocks from their farming and the agricultural faculty as well within the university. So you can also reach out to the university, and for sure they'll be able to give you as well more resources and probably exchange a little bit of information with you.
Great. One more question though. On one of the slides, I saw that you had horse manure. But I was talking with Dr. Roa of Guyana Energy Authority, and he advised me not to use horse manure because it is not good for the anaerobic procedures. Or you use that in the compost and air composting. It was written on one of the slides earlier.
Yes. For composting, it's not recommended to add manure. Moreover, mostly if it's like a very small, if it's piles that are not like a big industrial, how do you say, scale, because you won't, with manure and chicken droppings or things like that, you need to get the compost piles to a certain temperature so that the microorganisms and E. coli, for instance, are deactivated through the process. So if you don't reach a certain temperature within your compost pile, then you won't get rid of those microorganisms. So it's not recommended to add that type of waste if you're doing a small operation and it's not on an industrial scale. For a biodigester, that shouldn't be a problem to add those kinds of wastes, because inside the biodigester you would have conditions that would reach certain temperatures, and it's a process that's anaerobic. It's not aerobic as the composting piles. So that should be
Okay. Great.
and that will also add just additional nutrients to the final digestate that's produced. So yeah.
Okay, thanks again. I really appreciate.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Any other questions from anyone? Anyone else wants to discuss what their next steps would be going back to your resorts, going back to your facilities? We're here to answer those questions for you.
Hello, Rodesha again. Hello again.
Hi,
thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you, Diana, for yours as well and your contribution. I've got a few. One, I also I would like to introduce Dr. Surendra Prasad, who is on the call and very passionate about composting and all that it entails, the entire gamut of it. I visited Dr. Prasad a few months ago, and I was even more encouraged when I saw the ad to have invited him on this call as well. So before I ask Dr. Surendra to speak on what he has been doing and how passionate, even more passionate, allow me to ask, how is it that the larger hotels, for example, how do we create buy-in for the larger hotels when it's quite a mammoth task? What are your experiences in terms of creating buy-in for the larger hotels? And larger, I mean, we're talking here 60 rooms and beyond, much less 200 rooms. Sorry?
That's 60 rooms?
60 keys, yes.
Okay. So my largest resort is 323 keys that I implemented this system in. One thing, again, top management is key. They have to be rallying behind the process, rallying behind the cause for that to happen. Then you can even skip over management and go to the team members. They are the foundation of the success of this program. I want you to think about the fact that there are team members that are doing the waste separation within the kitchens, and then there are team members who are then going to transport these new waste, because normally they would put it in the garbage house or the garbage rooms or in the back where you have the garbage. They will now have to take it to a new location. And then you have team members who have to aerate it. They have to turn it. They have to love it, basically, in order for it to become what it needs to become. So after you have the buy-in from your upper management, they have to be championing this cause. Then you need to have the support from your team members. You have to ensure that they feel like they're part of something. And then you have to reward them. You have to ensure that you make a big deal out of this thing that nobody is going to care about until you make them care about it. You have to figure out how I did it, because within that particular resort, there is a green team. So you have to start a sustainability team with a cause, people who want to achieve the same things. Create that green team, and then it becomes easier for that green team to influence everyone else. And that one of the once you start to separate your organic waste, they're going to become even more motivated in order to divert the other types of waste, because your plastics are cleaner, they're easier to separate. Another thing you can do is within your guest space for the guests to participate is to get separated bins. So you have recyclables and you have trash. So that's one way you can incorporate it. Department competitions are something else that you can use to really give it a boost. So every department can decide that you're going to weigh your garbage, and based on the amount of weight that you have, you get a point. And at the end of however long you decide, then you give that particular department a prize, whatever that prize is, if it's even pizza day, but you have to get creative. The Gen Zers and the early millennials are instant gratification personnels. So you have to tap into that. You have to tap into that, and it will grow. It will grow on everybody after it works, but it takes time and it takes persistence and consistency.
So I thank you for that. We, within my hotel, which is much smaller and a boutique feel, it's easy to manage. We have had a composting project for probably over 13 years of trying to do that, because it also helps, like you said, there's a direct connection to the garden, and in terms of not necessarily depending on fertilizers. You're so correct on that. So this is why I asked the question, because it's easy to get buying for a manageable environment versus larger hotels, and especially a hotel that may not have a garden per se. Although it's quite unusual to fathom that, but you have spaces where it's very much in the center of the city, and there's not much green surroundings. What do you do in a case like that? How do you get buy-in to simply do the separation in order that you might then satisfy your SDG goals, SDGs? So the thing is, I want to bring in Dr. Surendra at this point for him to add to that, because I hinted to him that he has got to be the crux of helping us in this process, especially just to encourage separation. Our waste management program is a bit more complex in Guyana. I don't think that it bodes well in terms of necessarily what happens post-separation. So there isn't much buy-in at that point. We're still growing in that area, but it doesn't mean that we can't start cultivating the culture of separation, so that when that added stage arrives, it's very simple to transition or to let that aspect play catch up. So let me bring in Dr. Surendra at this point. He's going to have work some magic on our hospitality sector to help us to move this process along. Thank you, Doc, for joining this afternoon.
Good
afternoon, all. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, THAG. I have actually worked with Recycle Organics. They visited, I think, I believe it was last year early. And sadly, despite all of the hard work they have done, we have been unable. They actually have a project document that they presented to the Georgetown Mayor and City Council. And subsequent to that, I worked with them to present to the Ministry of Local Government, hoping to utilize the waste from two of the markets on the East Coast. And unfortunately, we didn't get buy-in. Ms. Reid, to answer your question, there is no financial incentive to do this in Guyana, and there's no, worse yet, there is no financial disincentive. So yes, the businesses pay to have their garbage picked up. Most residences, it's sort of tied into our taxes, et cetera, et cetera. But hopefully with time, and as we aim to get back what's called the Garden City of Georgetown. There will be a greater disincentive to not throw away when we start to sort of be charged volume based. So what have I been doing? I do regular composting, I do warm composting, I've created biochar. I'm a capitalist. So why I do this is because one of the things I do is I believe, and as your experts will tell us, everything that was from a plant can be composted. So I've been able to run a small mint farm that I have, and I've never bought fertilizer. I collect on a weekly basis from everybody who wants to give me their cut grass. I live in a neighborhood that's in a constant battle with their lawns and inability of the city to pick up their grass. So they're more than happy to give it to me. So my guys drive around and pick them up. We have more cardboard in this country than we know what to do with. And so I get all the cardboard, I get pallets, I get this, I get that. I don't get too scientific in the mixing of it. I've used the pallets to set up the 1 meter cube bins. And I have 2 employees, and so they have the hard job of flipping it. Ideally, we should do this once a week. We don't. Once a day, we do it once a week. So I've taught them how to do that. The warm composting has come along very well, and that is a separate. So I've been able to demonstrate that the process works, and there is the savings in that I do not have to purchase fertilizer. My goal for 1 year was to produce enough for my family of 4 and for my staff, basic leafy vegetables and stuff like that. And I achieved it. So I've proved concept. So I've gotten beyond that stage. The challenge with the hotels, like, as small as Dee said, the boutique hotels, it's easy to speak to them. And I will work more along with that because they have lawns, they have flower gardens, and things like that. So they could see that if you're doing this composting right on your property, it has immediate benefits. The bigger hotels, it's just easy to contract a company. We have got 2 or 3 large companies, and they just take everything to the landfill. The problem is the landfill is filling faster than we planned. And so the government's going to have a challenge very soon, which they're aware of. But until there is a change in legislation, there will be no proper incentive for the big players to do anything. So I think we will get success on the smaller ones. Getting the buy-in on a corporate level for a Marriott or an internationally branded hotel is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. But we got to keep working at it. At some point, we will have somebody recognize the true value of this is that if you're burying very valuable waste, which is laden with energy that you can convert, it will kick off. And so my goal right now, everything I'm trying to do is proof of concept and to encourage people to do it. And so that's where I'm at. I'll pause for questions.
Thank you, Doc. Whilst Rodesha comes in. Sorry, Rodesha, you there?
No, I was telling you to go ahead.
Okay, so I'm very listening to Dr. Surendra again, and also I'm now meeting. Oh, John fell off the call. I was now meeting. Oh no, he's still here. I'm meeting John
Yes.
for the first time here, and hearing about your project too, John, and your farm. The thing is that I think the time has come for us for the meeting of the minds. I'm quite certain there are pockets of persons who are interested in this area, but we really do need to come together to see how best we can work together, even if it means, and I have a question for Dr. Surendra at this point.
Yes,
You said that your guys get together to do the pickups. And I think maybe that is an area that we can actually start advertising in a small way or getting the word out so that we can actually move this needle along to encourage the process. Because very often it's about, yes, I know Rodesha speaks of getting buy-in, but is there a way that when you do the pickups, is there a return? So like within 3 months, would there be a bag with a red bow saying, this is the outcome of all your garbage sent to us over a particular period. And it comes back to the property. And then slowly but surely, I know, yes, you are doing the hard work initially, but maybe we can look at the whole funding process. I love that little Scrabble representation that Rodesha had. You know, maybe, but let's just see how best we can start the process along to prevent persons from saying, no, this is too hard. You know, I like the way you just say, give me your grass, give me your waste, and then you present this magical bag that can be converted into the garden and for additional use, and then we just keep upscaling.
Correct. That is certainly possible business plan. It will require external funding to get going. One of the reasons I do not sell compost, because I am impatient where it comes to explaining the same Gen Zs that Rodesha speaks about. That this is a living material. Its biodiversity peaks. And the minute you put it in a bag, it's going to have a free fall in biodiversity and bioavailability. And so the compost which I use moves from maybe moves 30 feet, or if I take it up on the highway. But and the challenge is that if we're going to return it to you, we need to bring in a more robust testing for quality control, consistency in size, and things like that. I do believe there could be a process where I collect 1 cubic meter from you, and in 3 months, the volume gets reduced by more than half. And we could work on a process that does that. For it to be sustainable, what I haven't figured out, because there's a capital investment to get it, there is the labor involved in turning it. And so I would need persons like Recycle Organics to help us with the business model of how we get that to be sustainable.
Well, Dee, I agree with you, Dr. Prasad. One of the ideas that came to my mind when you spoke about the city hotels are farmers like John who, and Dr. Prasad, who has composting and organic waste. So John can probably reach out to the Marriotts and sell them the same system that we have and let them know they can take out their organic waste. It will reduce the amount of trips that they'll have. So that is one way you can try to persuade those hotels, even though they may not be doing composting on their land, the actual separation of the waste will reduce the amount of trips that they have. And there are other ways you don't necessarily have to compost your organic waste as well. Once you separate it, I'm not sure if you have pig farmers that can collect your waste as well. In St. Lucia, we have that. So some of the organic waste can go to pig farmers. The selling point here for those city hotels who may not have gardens and may not see the need for that is the reduction in the hauling of their waste to the landfill. So.
Yeah, correct. So right now, I don't think the cost is so much of a disincentive because what we have heard is, well, I have to pay somebody or I have to work on separation. For me, ultimately, this is where this is going to go. So yes, the chickens get first dibs on the waste. And then what is left over, minus the citrus and so goes into there. The way I envision, if you ask me where I will be 5 years from now, I will tell you the only solution I see, and it's sad that this is the path, but having been in this for over 5 years now, I believe that if I tie the landscaping business and sort of animal husbandry into this, that is the way you manage the solid waste. Human beings are not going to separate waste. I've seen multiple countries try penalize citizens for not separating their waste. It's an uphill battle. We have tried in schools. So I'm part of a school board. We've tried in schools to show the students how they could have a compost and the yields. We've had varying success with that. So I believe that uh, TAG, for example, can look at whether it wants to support an entity that says, we're willing to do better waste management than take it to the dump site. So I think this is where you speak about corporate responsibility. If there is an entity that says, look, I am not going to pick up. So TAG says, we're looking for people who dispose of our waste responsibly. So you have to compost everything that can be composted. And it can't cost more. You just have to do it because obviously you get a benefit from composting that rather than just dumping it. So that is the way I see this. And then as we separate the waste, the plastics in Guyana, we will continue to struggle with. And for me, that is how there's an entire, Guyana has a significant coconut industry that is polluting many of our waterways right now. And so there are lots of options for this. And as I've said to Dee before, I think the time is now right for us to sit down and sort of look at this on a bigger picture. There, for the persons in the poultry industry, for example, about a third of our feed can be replaced by black soldier fly larvae, which would be more than happy to mop up all of our organic and even some of our animal waste. And so as you bring these things in, I think if we look at it as how we manage waste holistically, that's going to be the ultimate solution. I have no faith in human beings doing this. And so until it's a business model, I struggle to figure out how that's going to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Are there any other questions or comments at this point?
I was just about, sorry, is that John?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, John, go ahead.
This is very interesting. And I must say thanks to the doctor. I think we're on the same page. But he mentioned that he's doing his own garden. But I believed, because I live on the West Coast, I should say East Bank of Essequibo in Virgin Ocean. And I spoke to my neighbors where it comes to the separating of recycled product and the plastic, et cetera, and they are willing to do that, all right? But at my cost, I will have to supply them with my buckets. And I have no problem with that because, I need the materials. I need the waste. So I don't like to be a pessimist. I'm not saying doctor is, but I understand that he's a doctor and I presume he dealt with many people, attitudes, et cetera. But I'm a forester by profession. I did study agriculture, Guyana School of Agriculture, so I'm both, I'm in depth. So I spoke to my neighbors, my community, and they are willing to support me with that waste, but I have to supply my bins, as I said earlier. But I'm glad that doctor
so John,
is there.
For the persons we collect, so we collect from a few of the open air markets, and yes, we have had to provide them with bins because, and the other thing is they obviously don't want to keep it. So some of the restaurants, the small ones, we have to guarantee them that it's not going to stay overnight because obviously. So they are entities that are environmentally intelligent and see the value of this. Sadly, they are the minority. But yes, so in my community where I live, people are more than happy to give me the grass because they prefer it to go and get composted than to add to the methane. So it's just if we were to look at a pie chart, we possibly have about 15%, 25% of the people who are willing to be environmentally sound. But yes, I don't think we should give up.
I was reading about the hummingbird effect, that one hummingbird that started to take the water with his little beak and bring it to the forest fire. And after that one all the animals saw that one hummingbird doing it, and they saw that it was making a small difference, they started to join in. And that's how I feel about sustainability and composting and just about sustainability on a whole. We have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere with the little and those persons who are willing, and hope that those other persons who are not so interested will say, okay, I don't care about sustainability, but if you want my garbage, take it. And then from that aspect, then it's the human mind, behavioral change subconsciously. I believe that John, you can reach out, you can reach out to who you think can make this happen. It starts somewhere. And once you start, it will catch on, but you just gotta be consistent and persistent. That wraps up if anybody else has any questions.
I just want to complete I just want to complete my comment. But what I'm saying, right? We have to look at Guyana from a different perspective at this point in time. With the oil and gas industry, there are many foreigners that are coming to our shores, and they are looking for organic products, and we, the farmers, we have to start producing products that they will need, organic. So that is one of my main policy, to shift from the use of inorganic fertilizers to use mainly organic fertilizer, because it benefits not only the crop growing fast, it also improves the soil conditions, because it makes the worm grow faster to aerate the soil. And I heard Doctor mention that one benefit that I'm receiving from my practices, and the shelf life of the crop is longer than the inorganic fertilizer produce. So I am seeing those benefits, and I believe that, and that's the reason why I'm saying, and the only way I can capture that is linking with the major hotels in Guyana, but I'm still at the starting line. I haven't kicked off as yet, but that is my objective. That's my future plan. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Rodesha, I just want to add, this would be my final group of words. But John, I think we need to find a way to connect with you and to see how we can move the needle forward. I believe that you're correct. I think we can start, and Rodesha, you alluded to it. We can start with those who are just willing to work in this direction. And also maybe something that we can look at is actual funding to share some of the positives of those who have been doing it, with the hope of encouraging others to get on board, because we really want others to have a greater buy-in from the others indeed, and to make it sort of like a challenge. I mean, we're seeing all sorts. We're seeing the ICE challenge, the Kendrick Lamar challenge. We're seeing all sorts of challenges, but why not push one in a more positive, so that people are actually, we get constructive copycats, and see where it leads us. Where there's hope, I always try, once there's hope, we can move the domino effect along. So that's the end of my
our industry does have some institutional memory as it relates to having successful organic gardens going from garden to table. What comes to mind is Rockview in the North Rupununi, where the proprietor there had an established garden that was as close to organic as anything we've done. And it was a big hit with his guests. He then went on to successfully farm Tambaki, an Amazon fish. Other examples we've got commercially. One of our rum producers actually has a biodigester where they use their waste, and that has significantly reduced their power consumption. So there are examples that we can learn from. The important thing seems to be, how do we get the word out? How do we sustain it? And how do we form the linkages so that each person can feed off the other and we can get rid of this pall of pessimism that seems to be overtaking us. Having said that, if there are no other questions, I would certainly like to thank persons who've participated, and in particular, thank our presenters for a most erudite presentation, which would only redound to the growth of organic waste management in our industry, and hopefully will influence change nationally as well. So thank you all. Thank you, Rodesha and Diana, and thank all persons who participated in the Q&A. Pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.